Well, throughout the day and the week, as President Trump calls for a probe into why Mueller was appointed at all, is it time to investigate the investigators? Here now to weigh in is attorney and Fox News contributor Emily Compagno. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Heather. Thank you.
So these calls going out to investigate the investigators, should that happen, and how could that happen?
Right. I think it's a viable course of action, right? There's a lot of anger, rightly so, on the right at this point and on behalf of the president, who feels that he was the result, obviously, the target of 2 years of an incredible investigation with an overwhelming amount of resources deployed toward it to the tune of our tax dollars. So that would look in the form, note that the IG is presently continuing his investigation, so look for a future report. It could also be undergone by some type of independent panel, right? So some type of totally independent group of people appointed by the DOJ that then goes out and investigates all of the underlying events that occurred that haven't been covered by the mainstream media as to why exactly the dossier was accepted and all of the information passed back and forth between the then FBI and certain people, that some of which are still employed at the DOJ.
Right. And that wouldn't only involve the FBI. It would involve potentially Hillary Clinton, her campaign, the Obama administration, how they responded to what they knew and when. Here's what Rudy Giuliani had to say. He said there has to be a full and complete investigation with at least as much enthusiasm as this one to figure out where did this charge emanate, who started it, and who paid for it. So what would be the repercussions for any of those individuals involved?
All of the repercussions potentially that we saw here, right? There, at this point, is a substantial amount of indicators toward everything from bias to fraud to downright, there's leaks to the press, there's inappropriate use of resources, there's a whole host of things that we only saw touched on this point. And I think there's a level of national fatigue that likely is occurring right now with the amount of resources that have gone toward these investigations. But really, it shouldn't be cut off if at this point there is so much more to investigate, which it looks like there is.
Yeah.
And especially in this report, in the immediate knee-jerk reaction by those on the right, including, as we heard quoted a few minutes ago, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, it's not appropriate at a minimum for him to be discussing and citing what he calls compelling and incriminating evidence that still exists if after a 2-year investigation there wasn't any such evidence that exists. Those kinds of comments, they need to be put to rest, and the only way that it can, frankly, would be another independent investigation.
Yeah, at another cost. I mean, we have this breakdown we can pull up for people just to bring it home for you. This was 674 days, 19 lawyers, 40 FBI agents, $25.2 million in cost, 37 indictments, but 0 collusion indictments. So what we initially began to look for, 0, none of that.
Exactly. And, for those that are calling for, well, OK, so this needs to happen now and this testimony and this, that's really undermined the extent of that investigation, throughout which so many on the left hung their hat on its relevance, its importance. They frankly canonized Mueller at times, right? And so it kind of belies the fact that, well, what is everyone waiting for on the left then? Clearly, they're not going to be satisfied until a certain outcome is reached that up until now, the evidence has not supported.
Emily,
and so it kind of belies the fact that it's partisan. Sorry,
I did want to ask you this one quick thing before we run out of time, because I'm not really clear on this. The former deputy FBI director, Andrew McCabe, just last month, he talked about this counterintelligence investigation that was launched based on the president's actions. Among those actions, asking James Comey to discontinue the investigation into Michael Flynn. What about the counterintelligence investigation? Is that now wrapped up and done? Will that continue?
It seems to me it is. Note that there are still ongoing investigations that were referred to the Southern District of New York. So we don't know what's going on with that yet. So that remains to be seen if there are other things that are being developed. Note that it's referenced as well in AG Barr's report, where he says that's part of what would be redacted in the eventual the Mueller report that's given to Congress or released to the public. So notwithstanding that, the answer, in my opinion, would be yes. Reminder, it's a $12 billion industry, this digital espionage. So, and the majority of of those indicted, as we know, were Russian nationals. So certainly moving forward, not only do we know thus far that there's been no evidence towards an underlying criminal activity the president was engaged in, which went to his intent, that then AG Barr, along with Rod Rosenstein, referenced as, that's why we declined to prosecute obstruction of justice. All of the required elements, the nexus into an underlying crime, criminal intent, etc., none of that was there, and therefore that's why we're not proceeding. So that goes in, that ties in.
So we will see. That's what a lot of folks now are starting to talk about as well, the counterintelligence investigation. Thank you, Emily. We appreciate it.
Yeah.